Well, that was shit, wasn't it? Parramatta 38, the Bulldogs 20. But having been removed from the game for one day, I'm still quite frustrated at the level of performance that we saw at the Bulldogs. Let's start with full credit to Parramatta. They came in, they're walking wounded. They just got pumped by the Gold Coast Titans, yet they turned up against a local rival. They beat up the Bulldogs. Those forwards from Parramatta bashed the Bulldogs' middle. Leo Thompson would be sore and sorry today because he was playing his first game of the season and he got put under all sorts of pressure, as did the whole forward pack of Parramatta, led by Junior Paulo, who I thought had his best game for Parramatta. I also want to give a lot of credit here to Mitchell Moses. I thought he had his best game of the season, put the Bulldogs under pressure with his kicking game, and he had a little piece of genius, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment, that shows you what a world-class half Mitchell Moses really is. The Bulldogs started really well. Jacob Kiraz scored early with a nice shift set play over on the left-hand side, and the Bulldogs go ahead 4-0. But the absolute coach killer happens within 2 minutes. When you score a try, you need to complete the following set. Every coach will tell you that, from under fives all the way up to the NRL. Marcelo Montoya had a game to forget. He made an error within that first set, and then he compounds his error by allowing Josh Adokar to beat him and score a try. That was going to be the last time that the Bulldogs had a lead in this game. Marcelo Montoya had a game to forget. He had 2 errors, simply not good enough. Josh Curran, selected at centre, raised a lot of eyebrows pre-match. Tuawala pulling out with a hamstring strain. But I have to question why Josh Curran was selected at right centre. He had an absolute shocker. 5 errors from Josh Curran. It wasn't good enough. And one that led directly to a try. Another that put Parramatta in the ascendancy, leading to a try. But then I can't help but wonder, is it Josh Curran's fault that he had such a poor game? Or do you have to point the finger towards the coach and say, why did you pick Josh Curran there? Let's talk about Cameron Ciraldo here just for a moment in terms of team selection. I've seen people blaming all sorts of players for this loss. Let me keep it really simple for you. Parramatta bashed the Bulldogs across the park. 1-17, Parramatta out-enthused the Bulldogs. This wasn't a tactical play. It wasn't that Parramatta did something more brilliant, or that the halves weren't clicking, or that there was a spine issue with the Bulldogs. No, it was simply out-enthusiasm and a more professional performance by the Parramatta Eels. There were moments of class by Mitchell Moses. I want to highlight one critical moment in the game where you can see the genius that Mitchell Moses really is. Preston had to go off in the second half with a HIA assessment. What Mitchell Moses then realised was the Bulldogs' right side defence was as makeshift as it gets. Off the top of my head, I think it was Harry Hayes defending in the back row, next to Lachlan Galvin, Josh Curran at centre, and Marcelo Montoya, with the latter two definitely struggling for confidence given that their performances so far in the match. Mitchell Moses kicks the ball in between the try line and the sideline. Josh Curran goes to get it. He drops the ball. Easy pickup for Dylan Walker. Under 5 stuff for Dylan Walker. Congratulations to him. But this is genius play by Mitchell Moses. He put the Bulldogs under pressure, identifying that a mainstay of that right side defence in Jacob Preston had vacated the field and his position. How to go against the Manly Sea Eagles, who are on a 3-game winning streak following their sacking of Anthony Seibold. Fozball is flying. Can they go to Brookvale and get a victory? For the Bulldogs, lots went wrong here. Let's talk about it. The penalty count was lopsided. The Bulldogs conceded 6 penalties, Parramatta 1. Ill discipline is costing the Bulldogs. They are putting themselves under pressure to defend more, and they are not holding. The other component of this is, I have to talk about Josh Curran's selection at right centre. Cameron Ciraldo came out in his press conference and said that he had chosen Josh Curran at centre because he had played there for the New Zealand Warriors. If you look into the stats of Josh Curran at the New Zealand Warriors, he barely played centre at all. Majority of his time was actually in the second row or at prop. So I'm not quite sure I agree with the coach there. Move Jacob Kiraz to right centre. Bring Jonathan Sewer in off the extended bench and move him over to the left-hand side. And then you've got a winger playing for a winger. You've got Jacob Kiraz, who debuted for the Bulldogs at right centre, playing right centre. And then Josh Curran can play in the forward rotation where he belongs. I think that Cameron Ciraldo put Josh Curran under a lot of pressure here. I think Josh Curran had a poor game, don't get me wrong, but I think the coach put Josh Curran in a very vulnerable position and ultimately set him up to fail. This is one of many confusing decisions that I've found from Cameron Ciraldo so far this season. We've seen Bronson Xerri moved over to the right side and then Stephen Crichton on the left to start the season. Then we've seen Bronson Xerri dropped for Tawala, who I thought has actually been quite good. The left-hand side in Stephen Crichton and Jacob Kiraz hasn't thrived being on the left, so I can't say that Cameron Ciraldo has been vindicated in his decision. Questions around the Bulldogs' spine at times this season. I think the 1, 6, 7 and 9 were always going to be the group of players that start this season, but given the Bulldogs' inadequacy and inefficiency in attack, there have been questions asked. I will say this. I've seen people blaming Lachlan Galvin for the result. Lachlan Galvin is not the reason the Bulldogs lost against the Parramatta Eels. In fact, Lachlan Galvin was probably the Bulldogs' best player along with Matt Burton on that rugby league field. A brilliant try by Lachlan Galvin, getting himself involved on the sweeper play. Yes, there's a few inconsistencies in his game in terms of grubbering for himself. Yes, I think he could make better decisions in terms of his kicking game. I think his kicking game overall could be better, but he's 20 years of age. You have to allow him to develop. Overall, he's running the ball really well. He's leading the team around the park. He's handling the ball more than most players in the NRL competition. He's in the top 5 for that, all while trying to navigate and figure out this number 7 position. So again, this is a moment for me to look at Cameron Ciraldo and say, are we playing to the strengths of the team? Would Lachlan Galvin be better served as a number 7 or a number 6? Josh Curran have been better served playing in the middle versus at centre? Should Jonathan Su'A have come in on the left-hand side? Should Bronson Xerri ever have been dropped? Because Bronson Xerri was absolutely brilliant for the Bulldogs. His flick pass to Jacob Kiraz, chef kiss, absolutely terrific. And the thing we can't forget about Cameron Ciraldo is his inexperience as a head coach. He is a very good coach, but I think that some of the decisions he is making are letting the Bulldogs down. I don't think the spine is why the Bulldogs lost. I think the Parramatta forwards out-muscled the Bulldogs forwards, they out-enthused the Bulldogs forwards, and Parramatta ultimately outsmarted the Bulldogs. Mitchell Moses showing his game general experience against a more green spine in Lachlan Galvin and Matt Burton. The other thing I'll say about the Bulldogs is their backline lacks serious pace. We saw Taran Da Silva running away from Marcelo Montoya in the second half. It's quite concerning when a winger can't catch a hooker. And I'm not trying to single out Marcelo Montoya here, but if you look across the Bulldogs backline, there's no true speedster. I think Bronson Xerri is pacey. I think Jacob Kiraz is pacey, but I don't think they're going to outpace the likes of Josh Adokar or the Hammer or Dom Young. We saw what speed can do against Newcastle, where Dom Young scored a hat-trick just running away from defenders time and time again. So I don't know how the Bulldogs solve that, but they need to get some pace into the team. I do want to give a little bit of credit here as well to Jonathan Su'A. He did make a bad error in the second half, but I thought when he came on, his runs were really powerful. He added some much-needed leg speed, and he was getting over the momentum line, so well done to Jonathan Su'A. I think this guy's a bona fide first grader, and I'd love to see more of him. So the Bulldogs got the Broncos up next. Do you make changes? I'm going to say no. I don't think that there's necessarily any personnel available that can help the Bulldogs. I think they really missed Max King today. His minutes, his go forward, Leo Thompson in his first game back, he'll only be better for the experience, but he was always not going to be match fit. So that was a point of contention for the Bulldogs. But they're simply lacking some impact in the middle. I've seen people talking about kick-out being the issue. I think it's the halves' responsibility to get kick out of the ball, not the other way around. But what is for sure is the Bulldogs need to turn it around against the Broncos, but it doesn't get any easier. They are the current premiers after all. And there you have it. There's my match reaction. Look, it's deflating. But it's a wild NRL season. You're seeing teams beat everybody. And if you're off just by 5%, you will get beat in this competition. Unless you're versing the Dragons, of course. They're a shoo-in for a guaranteed victory. Anyway, I've released a whole bunch of fan interviews. They're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you prefer to consume your content. Enjoy your rugby league and get out of here.